Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soul Stained Ink. My name is Beth, and today I am bringing to you a book review. Now, I buddy read two books in the month of June. One of them was with Angela from Writing is My Heart, and that book was The Forgetting, which I will be doing a separate video review for. But today I wanted to talk to you about the book I buddy read with Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and that was The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon. I absolutely adored this book. My Goodreads says I gave it a 5 star. It's more like a 4.75. There were a couple of things in this book that I thought should have been tweaked a little bit. However, absolutely one of my favorite reads of 2017 so far. And I am so, so glad that I finally picked it up and read it. And I'm glad that I read it with Elizabeth because we have so much fun emailing back and forth about what we've been reading, and we talk about our theories and how we feel about everything. And I just absolutely adore reading books with her. I think this is like the third or fourth book that we've buddy read so far this year, something like that. And I'm hoping that we'll do several more throughout the rest of the year and many years to come. But right now, I specifically want to talk to you about this one. Now, I've showed you guys a couple of times that I started a sort of journal for all of the different buddy reads. And so here is my page for The Shadow of the Wind. As you can see, I filled it out a little bit. I talk about my favorite characters, my favorite quote, my rating, my least favorite characters, all of that. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you a little bit about the actual book. Now, this book was translated. It was originally written in Spanish, and it was translated by Lucia Graves. So I was a little bit concerned that being translated from Spanish, even though that is kind of a language that's a little bit closer to English to be able to translate, I was afraid that it wasn't going to read as well. And I don't read Spanish, so I was a little worried, but it's absolutely beautiful. She did an amazing job with the translation. And this book discusses Barcelona. It is mainly set in about 1945. It starts in 1945 anyway, and it goes through the 50s, but it also flashes back to the 20s and even the late 1890s. But it does so very simply, very elegantly, and just absolutely blew me away. Now, the main character, kind of, is Daniel. Daniel's father owns a bookshop, and when he is 11, at the very beginning of the book, I think he's 11. Anyway, at the very beginning of the book, he is a young boy, and he goes to the cemetery of forgotten books. And this is where people take books to be protected, to be saved, so that they don't just completely go away. A lot of the books are just books that needed to be taken out of personal libraries. People didn't want them anymore, etc., and they wind up at the Library of Forgotten Books. But Daniel chooses a book that somebody is actively trying to find and dispose of. This certain author named Julian Carax, somebody is searching for all of the copies of all of his various works and burning them. Now, Julian is an amazing author who doesn't have much of a following, which I absolutely uh, felt a kinship with, because as a self-published indie author, I feel that way a lot of the time. Not that I'm an amazing author, but I don't really have a huge following or any following at all. And I know a lot of you can identify with that. So that is something that immediately caught my attention. And throughout the entire book, I felt a kinship with Julian. There is romance, there is intrigue, there are a lot of twists and turns. There is this inspector called Fumero, who is like the worst type of person. He reminded me of the sheriff of Nottingham, but I hate him a whole lot more than I dislike the sheriff of Nottingham. So that tells you something right there. But I'm not going to tell you any more about the book, except for my favorite, least favorite, etceteras. So, my least favorite character, Inspector Fumero. My favorite minor character is Don Frederico, who is this very interesting kind of side character who is a watch repairman down the street from the bookstore. And there are all sorts of little kind of side note gossipy things about him that are really interesting. My favorite characters are Furman and Julian. Furman is another incredibly interesting kind of side character who gets a little bit more of a main focus as Daniel's best friend. My favorite location is the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, of course, but also the Aldea Mansion. And then my favorite quote is at the end of the book, and it's B, and she says that the art of reading is slowly dying, that it's an intimate ritual, that a book is a ritual that offers us only what we already carry inside of us, and that when we read, we do it with all of our heart and mind, and great readers are becoming more scarce by the days. And that is actually on page 484. It's part of a longer quote, but that is my absolute favorite quote. I do have two other quotes. Um, yes, two other quotes that I absolutely loved. The first is, "This is a world of shadows, Daniel, and magic is a rare asset. That book taught me that by reading I could live more intensely." And that is said by Clara. And then the other one is, "In my schoolboy reveries, we were always two fugitives riding on the spine of a book, eager to escape into worlds of fiction and secondhand dreams." And that is said by Daniel. And I think those three quotes really say more than I could about the beauty of the book. It is listed on Goodreads as being the first in a series, so I'm hoping that more will come out soon because I cannot wait to read more about that world. But even if they don't, because this read as a really well written standalone, I'm definitely going to be searching out more books by this author. It was beautiful, and I cannot wait to read more in his voice and style of writing. If you have read this book, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So please leave them for me down below. If you have not read this book, let me know if you are now contemplating reading it. I would highly suggest that you do. It would work for an adult read, for a readathon, or if you're looking for more transcribed works. Transcribed is not the word I'm looking for. More translated works to read. It would work for that. So please just go pick it up. I don't know what you're waiting on. Stop listening to me yammer on. I'm going to sign off. Don't forget to give me a big thumbs up if you liked the video. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.